Sahana Bhavatu, Sahano Bhunaktu, Sahaviryam Karvavahai, Tejasvinavaditamastu, Mavidvishavahai. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om. May the Divine Being look over us lovingly as a mother and father. May the Divine Being support and nourish us as a mother and father. May we have the strength and skill to study together the art of spirituality. May no misunderstandings arise amongst us. Om, peace, peace, peace be unto us and to all your beloved children everywhere. Hari Om Tat Sat. Dearly beloved, make it so. So good morning, all you wonderful people who have come. This is our Sunday morning talk titled Little Victories. And the way it will work is I will read a poem called Little Victories and then expand on what is meant by the poem. And as we go along, of course, there'll be all the opportunity that you'd like to have for participation. Comments, questions, concerns. But before we start, is there anything that needs to be discussed from any previous session or from any other aspect of your spiritual life that you'd like to have discussed by me and by the others that are here with us so blessedly this morning? All right.
I'm scared to ask you this and derail everything, brother.
Well, just go ahead.
The problem I'm having, what I've cooked it down to, is I don't understand how the object is not existing from its own side.
Well, dear, that's above my paycheck. I just don't. I don't really understand your question.
Well,
really understand why the concern, why this would trouble your spiritual life, whether an object exists or not. But go ahead.
Well, I realize that it's not my, liberation is not dependent on me understanding this. But, Swami Sarvapriyananda was talking about this very thing, and he was saying that the object exists on a borrowed existence from the subject, and that it's false because it's a temporary existence, therefore not real. But yet the object does not exist from its own side. And so I keep ending up in the void, basically.
Well, then fine, just enjoy the void. This is what underlies everything. Anyway, we call it the void or we call it the fullness from our whatever perspective. But please don't concern yourself over much about this. As you said, it really doesn't have anything to do with whether you attain samadhi or not. It really does not. Your understanding of these things is an intellectual exercise. Anything else from anyone about any of that or anything else? All right. I'm going to disappear. That is to say, you will hear me, or at least I hope you'll continue to hear me. You will let me know as I read the poem, Little Victories. Little victories. when I have even a small success, when I have even a small success, something in me spontaneously rejoices. Bright joy appears, interrupting other voices of mind and heart. Every little victory gives rise to this. Lightness beyond reason for a few moments, even when all else around me is empty, bleak, and dark. Yet that's not always how it is. A light and cheerful mood often prevails. And then, when some adventure goes a little more than right, I'm lifted up. Grace fills my sails. So I'm going to read it again. Little victories. When I have even a small success, something in me spontaneously rejoices. Bright joy appears, interrupting other voices of mind and heart. Every little victory gives rise to this. Lightness beyond reason for a few moments, even when all else around me seems empty, bleak, and dark. Yet that is not always how it is. A light and cheerful mood, often prevails. And then, when some adventure goes a little more than right, I'm lifted up. Grace fills my sails. So, first of all, can you clearly hear me? Anyone respond?
Yes, Shankara, we can hear you perfectly.
Yes.
Very good. Very good. Thank you.
Fine.
So, any of
You can't see us that well, can you?
I can't see you at all now, as long as I have this up on the screen.
Okay.
I can't see you at all.
Several people gave the thumbs up sign that we could hear you, but then we realized that you didn't see the thumbs up.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you, Tom. So, any initial reaction, comment, question, or concern about what is said in this poem? Of course, the poem is talking about little victories, small successes in spiritual life. It could apply to the things of worldly life too, but it really isn't of that much consequence. I mean, we have joy, it arises, it passes away, but this joy that appears when we have some move forward in spiritual life, that's more significant. So anything from anyone about any of that? All right. When I have even a small success, of course, every day there is spiritual practice. Most days it is routine. It isn't as if it's insignificant, but the mantra is chanted, the worship is done, and not much changes. This is why the Swamis say our spiritual life goes forward slowly and slowly. But sometimes there is a little breakthrough. And it's almost, well, I would say it's always unexpected. And when it happens, the response is not a considered one. It is totally spontaneous. something spontaneously rejoices. And that which is rejoicing, it seems to me, is that which we are trying to attain. There's this response of joy from what we would call the Atman, Saguna Atman, the Atman with attributes, the attributes of love, compassion, joy. And so I bring this up so that this will be more clear to you what it is that's happening when you have these little successes as well. Because if you persist in your daily spiritual practice, you will have these little successes. So, any comment, question, or concern from anyone? Please speak up.
Everybody's so quiet this morning. Wake up, wake up.
Well, you're awake. What do you have to say?
Um, well, let's see. I'm very grateful that I have gotten to the place in my life where um the only victories for me are what you are, at least in this poem, prefacing, calling spiritual victories. There is no victory in the world, in my life, that is not a spiritual victory.
Wonderful.
But then again, some of that I attribute to spiritual practice, some of it to self work, and just all kinds of other factors. And also, I've always been kind of bent that way. But there is a difference. If we are in a place in our lives, or we're younger, or haven't really learned much yet, the worldly, really truly worldly victories can seem, they're what we are taught to seek, okay, in our culture.
Uh-huh.
And unfortunately, a lot of people live their whole lives not knowing that it's any different, and so if they don't get the worldly victories, they become sad and bitter, and that's very sad. It's sad that that happens. But if you start to realize that everything is what you want to call it, the divine, then there's no separation. If you have a personal victory, your personal victory is a spiritual victory.
Yes.
And therefore, how can you be attached to it? It doesn't really belong to you. I'm just babbling because nobody would say anything.
Oh, no. This is very true, particularly this last that you said. Attachment to our successes and the feeling that arises from them is a great impediment. We must let it arise and pass away, knowing that if we persist, it'll come again. But if we try to hold to it, that attachment, it is so, and you talked about the opposite of that also, the aversion when we don't seem to have success, the bitterness, and so on. Tremendous impediments. And as you said, also, all of this, whether we see it or recognize it or even think about it at all in this way, it is the divine moving forward. As the saints tell us, the divine does this in order to experience itself. And so we are the divine experiencing itself. Anything else from anyone?
Brother Gaurav here.
Yes, Gordon.
To me, I almost feel the victories are basically associated with being content no matter what the situation is. So more I pursue the divine, I tend to be content at all times. I think that's a victory to me.
Well, it is a victory if you can manage that. If you can actually manage that, Gordon. That's not just a little victory. That's a major victory. Santosha or contentment
Yeah.
is the state in which the realized soul abides. They abide in contentment. And it's something to be cultivated before it fully matures. We think in terms of contentment. Why am I discontent? What's really wrong here?
Yeah. Thank you, brother.
Thank you, Guru. Anything else from anyone, please?
Hi, this is Marla.
Yes,
I wanted to add that, yeah, often growth is on a continuum. It is not, we don't grow in like big spurts very often. And so it's sometimes very difficult to have perspective on that growth over time. And so I think these small victories help us, gain perspective and experience that we have not plateaued, that there is continual growth.
yes, yes. And that growth is continual. We're told by the saints, it is continual whether we're aware of it or not. But as you say, when we have these small successes, these little victories, it is very encouraging and lets us know that there is something going on. And it allows us, in the perspective that comes from this new experience, this little victory, we're able to change our behavior. We're able to become more like what the little victory modeled for us, and that is spiritual growth. Thank you, Marla. Very nice.
I'll say something. This is Tom. Can you hear me okay?
Can hear you just fine, Tom.
So I love the phrase little victories, and somewhere in there you use the term joyous.
Joy. Yes.
Joyous little victories. So this morning or last night, my phone stopped working, or the Bluetooth on my phone stopped working. And I was very intimidated by this. I felt a lot of anxiety, like I did some tests and I thought there's something wrong with the phone. I'm going to have to return it. I'm going to have to, set it up again. And it brought up all my insecurity about being an old man who learns new technology more slowly, which I guess ties into the insecurity that I dealt with all my life because I was a computer programmer and it was very competitive, to be smarter than the other guys. So you get paid more money. So I don't know what. But anyway, a lot of insecurity connected with that, a lot of insecurity connected with my phone not working. And then this morning, I went online and started reading about it and I fixed the phone. And
For you.
I felt great joy. I felt great joy when I fixed the phone. And now I'm in a state of great joy in the present moment. And it's beautiful looking at the screen, looking at all you guys. It's beautiful looking out the window at the trees and the sunlight on the grass. And my body feels good here in the chair. I'm living in the present moment and it's very joyous. And I feel a certain freedom, like I don't know much of anything, and that's just fine, So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Well, what you just expressed sounds a lot like what Gaurav was gesturing toward when he talked about contentment. You feel content with what is in this present moment. And that's all we can ever feel content about.
Yeah,
That's all the moment that there is.
I feel contentment, joy, awe, a sense of beauty, of physical pleasure in my body. It's really good. I feel very good.
Excellent.
Also, I'm aware that I'm a fairly neurotic person, and probably sometime soon I'll have anxiety about some other thing, and then that thing will get fixed, and then I'll be joyous again.
Right.
That's my life.
Well, a series of little victories.
Yeah.
Anything else from anyone before we read on?
I'll say one more thing. And listening to Tom, God, now
Can't see you, Cindy.
I know you can't.
We want to.
Oh, good grief. Now I forgot what I was going to say, Tom, because I'm getting old too. Oh. Yes, I love what you were saying. And it's going out and coming back. It's circling around. Y'all just wait till you get old. Gosh darn it. This is crazy. I'm sorry. I had something to say. I forgot. Anyway, I forgot because you distracted me, Tom, because you made me take my little thing off and show myself. Oh yeah.
Sorry.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
No, I got it. Okay. So you're talking about, the joy at fixing something, and then another anxiety will come along, and then you'll fix that, and then your joy will come back. The thing that to me shows about where your spiritual practice has brought you to is that you don't hang on to the anxieties. And that is the thing. It's not that we don't have anxiety or have anger or it arises because we're human. We're in these bodies. We encounter other bodies and things happen. But it rises. We deal with the situation. We use the adrenaline of the anxiety to deal with the thing. And then it goes away. We don't hang on to it and hang on to the past and hang on to old ancient anxieties and fears and things. That is the key. That's the key. Okay.
Thank you, Cindy, and a very, very good add-on to what Tom said. Anything else from anyone?
Yes, this is Jen. Good morning.
Yes, good morning, Jen.
So both what Cindy was saying and Tom and your lovely poem, of course, about being in the world. And when I think of victory with the world, when I think of the word victory, there's a challenge, and to be victorious over that challenge. But for me, it's not about having victory in the world, but more victory from the world, from the anxiety, from being defeated by the world. That in itself, every day, little victories of not being entrapped or what Swami Vivekananda calls being hypnotized. For me, it's a daily dehypnotization and to really live from the core of my being and not everything that's thrown at me. So that's what I was thinking.
Well, and very, very well said, very articulately said. Yes, and the world throws things at us. No two ways about it. Whether we want it or not, it's not a question. It happens. How do we deal with it? As you said, if you can operate from your core values and your core being, then these things arise and pass away, and they don't need to trouble us endlessly. So thank you, Jen.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Well, Shankara, this is Daniel.
Yes, Daniel.
This conversation kind of reminds me of the paradigm from Richard Rohr, where he talks about the first half of life versus the second half of life,
Uh-huh.
and how joys in the immature but first half of life are important and they play a role and they should be celebrated. But in the second half of life, we see how we used to identify with those successes and then lose our identity when the successes fade away. But in the second half of life, spiritual maturity shows we can hold on to our identity in being and not be carried away by either these successes or the failures, which is in and of itself also a type of victory. So it's
Oh,
a
yeah,
victory.
it is indeed a victory, not to be, as you say, carried away, or as Jen put it, hypnotized by the attributes of our lives, the upadis, the things that seem to be who we are and how we are. Beneath that is this continuity of spiritual being and growth that is not identified with any of that, though all of that is part of the growth process. It's usually invisible to us at the time. Thank you, Daniel. Anyone else? Anything else?
Yeah, I found it a bit cosmic or synchronous that I had phoned you last night to discuss this very thing without knowing that was today's lecture. And I'm reminded of an author I used to like, a success author, who likens success to, basically uses baseball terminology and says you can't always swing for the fences. Sometimes, a lot of times you have to go for those singles and doubles, but then every once in a while you hit one out of the park. And I guess for us, in meditation terms, that would mean achieving samadhi.
Well, yes, that would be achieving samadhi. What Brahmadas is talking about is that he yesterday was challenged by these kind of thoughts that all come to all of us. They're unwelcome, and he remembered two things: an instruction from Holy Mother about resort to the mantra, and then an instruction from Swami Prabhavananda that sometimes it's necessary to say the mantra out loud, sometimes even shout it, in order to drive those unwelcome thoughts from the mind and achieve a state of peace. So I'm really glad Brahmadas brought that up. And it was not just a little victory for him, it was a great victory that he was able to possess his own mind to the point where when these unwelcome thoughts were there, and we all have them, we all have these unwelcome thoughts. They're just part of what the world and our interaction with it generates. What do we do? Well, he managed to do well and achieve quiet, the quiet of meditation, by doing these two practices. Thank you, Brahmadas, for bringing that up.
Right. And the thought occurs to me during meditation, the mind truly is like the mad monkey stung by the scorpion. That's the challenge we're up against during meditation.
Oh, yes. Well, when we're in meditation, we've escaped the monkey. But when we're trying to move from our ordinary state of mind to meditation, that's when the monkey mind will challenge us
Right.
with all of these thoughts. Sometimes they're funny, sometimes they're just ordinary, other times, as you experienced yesterday, they're challenging. There's so many different ways of talking about this, the hypnotization, the monkey mind. We're all gesturing toward the same thing. Anything else from anyone? All right, I'll go back to the poem. and read the next stanza. Every little victory gives rise to this lightness beyond reason for a few moments, even when all else around me is empty, bleak, and dark. Every little victory gives rise to this lightness beyond reason for a few moments, even when all else around me is empty, bleak, and dark. As we know, things can seem empty, bleak, and dark. And yet, when we have these little victories, the phrase lightness beyond reason, it doesn't seem to depend on anything. This lightness of heart, this lightness of being comes. And is so, so gratifying. It is so affirming. And so we need to, if we're going to be attached to anything, be attached to these moments that come and remember them and take great joy in them even later. Yes, that's there, even when all around me is empty, bleak, and dark. And often our experience of the world is that, not necessarily up close and personal, but if you look beyond the confines of your home, there's a lot of darkness, and it's very bleak and empty for many people. They even empty stomachs. So we don't need to focus on that. And I don't mean to trend toward the geopolitical, but all of that is there. So it's best that we remain inward turned. We make our home our fortress, our citadel, as Sri Ramakrishna said. Make it our fortress. And within that, and I know personally some of you who actually regard it that way and guard it in that sense. So anything from anyone else about what was just said? All right.
Brother,
Yes.
sorry, this is Fred.
Yes, Fred.
Namaste to you and everyone in the class.
Namaste.
I've been coming into contact with the Christian religion more and more. And what appeared to me was a very great emphasis on suffering and seeing everything as suffering. And of course, there's a redemption to it. It suddenly occurred to me that was related, or who knows how it happened, but I became aware or something that it was related to that. You may have heard this term, pause when agitated. It's a 12-step term, really, but and that's kind of been the operating system for me on this path that's happened to me. And it suddenly occurred to me that you only have to pause when you're agitated, or you should when you're agitated. It's like a trigger, and the suffering is a sign to pause. And so the suffering leads to a pause, which leads to a little victory, maybe. I don't know.
Well, yes,
So,
of
I'm
course.
probably the dumbest guy in the world and know absolutely nothing. So this, to me, this was like, oh, maybe that's why they keep talking about suffering all the time.
You
I don't
keep
know.
talking about just being a guy in the world who knows nothing. Because we know one another well, Fred, I know that's not the case. You have learned so very much since you had an awakening experience that led you down this path. So please don't minimize what it is that you are and do. These little victories and your ability to identify that 12-step aphorism, pause when agitated, and then say, yes, if I pause, then where is the suffering? The suffering is something that exists, but not in this moment. So this is a victory indeed. So thank you, Fred, for sharing with us. And I insist that you are not just another guy in the world. And or if you are, it's in the same sense that each and every one of us is just another person in the world.
Exactly. We're all in it together, I think.
We are, and that's how it seems as I look at the screens here in front of me. All of these people have gathered here together to study the art of spirituality together. And there is great joy in that, because the current that runs through this, the current of unity and purposefulness, is so warming and so affirming. So thank you for all of you. Thank you, all of you, for being a part of this. Anything else? Yes.
Go ahead. I've really come, for me, my reality is it's suffering. You suffer until it's not suffering anymore. And that is, I don't take it as the self anymore, and, having a lot of physical pain, but I've learned to disidentify with it as being suffering, to where, I just stay in that refuge and I don't suffer. If that makes any sense to you.
It makes perfect sense. And the fact that you're, again, this is not a little victory, this is a major victory. For you to be able to use your spiritual practice and your spiritual training as given to you by Swami Sarvadevananda and others to as you say, abide in that refuge, and so not experience it as suffering in the way that you were experiencing it. That is not a little victory. That is a great victory. So we celebrate with you your great victory.
I know. Sorry, I know everyone is not on the exact same path, and that, having taken Sri Ramakrishna as my Ishta and taken an initiation, and the promise that this will be your last life and if you'll be liberated at death, if not in life, that to me is a refuge that if I stay in that, then I can get through anything. I just got to stick it out a little longer. And I really view the suffering as good karma in a way.
Very well said. All of that. Very well said.
It's just that my trying to chop away at reality is just my hobby. It's not my refuge.
Well,
And to add to that, Swami Prabhavananda said, to those who stick on and persevere, if you don't achieve liberation in this life, the master will grant it to you at the time of death. I've never known Prabhavananda tell an untruth, so I have to believe it.
That is what we understand from the Ramakrishna order of Swamis, yes. Sri Ramakrishna came as the breaker of this world's chain to unchain us and set us free. And so if we can manage by doing the spiritual practices to do it during this lifetime, all the better. If not, well, then that's just what happens. Anything else from anyone?
Hi, I wanted to just add a few things.
Yes, please.
But I wanted to circle back around to that pause, when agitated. That is I view that as quite a large victory, actually, that to be able to recognize, to take that moment and it causes a break in the hold of that pattern, so that you don't slide down that slide, you don't get caught in that spiral, you don't keep, reenacting that same pattern, over and over again. And it breaks through its awareness, it breaks that pattern of suffering. And so I view that as a huge, huge light.
Yes, that's a huge success. Thank you, Marla, as always. Anything else from anyone? Well, I'm having an intestinal difficulty. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave, and I'm going to ask you to talk among yourselves. And there's no way that I can avoid going to the restroom. So please, this is just something that happens to me because of something. So I'll be back as soon as I can. In the meantime, please.
Shankara,
Yes,
Shankara, do you
yes.
want to mute yourself or not?
No, I don't think you'll be able to hear me.
Okay.
I'm going to mute you anyway.
Okay, mute me anyway.
Okay, bye. See you soon.
Mutiny.
Okay, he's muted. Thank you, Lori.
I wanted to maybe talk more about suffering.
Let's talk about it.
Because the idea that had been brought to my attention a number of years ago was that suffering is how you look at it. Pain is unavoidable in life. We are going to experience pain. There's just no way around it. But suffering is our attitude about that pain. And that we have control over. And so that's an idea I wanted to sort of toss in there, that we do not have to suffer. We will experience pain, but we don't have to actually suffer over it. We can work on our reactions to that pain.
Yes, and it's another way to say what you're saying is that that saying about pain is inevitable, suffering is optional.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. Yep.
And I think that the suffering part, it's like Buddhism, life is suffering, but there's this way to overcome it. And, the Buddha doesn't say pain, life is pain, but we can get rid of it. It's like we can get rid of the suffering part, but not the pain part. But sometimes when I have a physical pain in my body, which I'm having more of since I passed 65 this year, I will tell myself, I'll say, pain is just a signal to the brain. Change the signal. Let's just change the signal. And it works for me. I don't know why. It's not magic. It's just, our brain listens to our mind. And if our mind is intentional and says, okay, I'm going to change this. You can produce endorphins. You can sort of manufacture them on the spot. Not you, but you can tell your brain to. It's like when we're doing something that we love to do. For me, it's performing, it's playing music. I can be in horrible pain before a show, but once I'm up there, it's like it's gone. It's gone. And then as soon as I'm done, I get down off stage. Oh, ow, it's back again. The pain was there the whole time, but I didn't suffer from it while I was doing this thing that I love to do. And so that to me is a clue to how to do what you're talking about, Marla, which is change your attitude. It's like, okay, and when I'm performing, it's just doing it on its own. But what's going on? What's going on is that I am super focused on something that is enjoyable to me. So if I can take that as a lesson and go, okay, I'm going to, outside of being on stage, I'm going to intentionally focus on something else that's enjoyable to me, then the suffering lessons. That's
A
all.
long time ago, there's a movie about I think he was a physicist and he got schizophrenia and basically, was completely disabled from it. And he got well on his own, and they asked him, well, how did you recover? And he was talking about the mind and all, and he said, I just quit listening to it. And that's really is, to me, how you do it. You just quit listening to all of it in the mind.
And a way to do that, there's so many different ways, but if you are spiritually bhakti oriented, you have a mantra, that's one really good way to distract yourself from the pain or the suffering of the pain and focus on something else that brings you some
Yeah,
joy.
kind of, you've heard the thing about the elephant, and he goes through and he grabs all the fruit and they put the stick in his trunk so he has something to grab onto, so he doesn't grab everything he's not supposed to. I kind of use the mantra that way. If you're losing control of the mind, to put the mantra in as the stick in the elephant's trunk to keep it from grabbing everything else, but that's just, my thing.
I would absolutely agree to that. I mean, that is exactly what I do, Gaurav here. Oh my gosh. And that's how I have gone through some of the worst, things, hardest examinations in my lifetime. Kind of stuck on to Divine Mother, chanting her name and mentally just not loud or something, and just do it. And magically, I don't know if all I can say, there's no reasoning behind it, but it does exactly that. It numbs the pains and takes it away, and then you're just not worried about it anymore. It's magic. I don't know how it works. I got no scientific reasoning behind that.
Well, I heard one of the swamis say that, that the mind flows towards what it loves. And so, from the bhakti path, you meditate and my mind flows to the love of the guru and the Ishta. And that any other way, I have a very difficult time, reducing it down to a single thought. But when I can flow into that love of the Ishta and the guru, it will do it by itself. And from there, where it goes, who knows, it's kind of like,
Yeah, almost exactly. Yep.
And actually, he said that in itself will purify the mind eventually.
Yeah, I totally, I 100% agree with that. And I think at the end of the day, like my meditation time might be a little different. It's like in the dark, probably just before bed. That's when I love meditating to Divine Mother. And I don't know, she puts me to bed beautifully, and wake up nice and happy next day, no worries, and keep doing it. And in the middle of the day, if I want to chant her name, I just do it ceaselessly without like saying it out loud. I'm just meditating. Okay, good, whatever it is, and it is a beautiful. I think it's the best. I don't know in scientific terms, therapy or whatever it is. It's beyond what I can intellectualize in any capacity. It's a feeling. It's bliss of some sort. It keeps me going. It's like a little nectar of bliss you get, and I say, "Oh my gosh, that's the best thing." Yeah, that's what it is. So when do you meditate generally?
Myself,
Yes, Bhagwan does.
I have my very best one in the morning, the first one. And I don't know, just me personally, it seems like I use up all my juice. And then the second one or later will tend to be kind of dry or not go as deep. But that's just me. But my best one is my first one of the day.
Nice.
I think of meditation and the different things that I use, not really a mantra anymore, not, but the things that we do use, whether it's a mantra or a prayer or an image or a feeling, it's a touchstone. And the more we touch it, the more powerful it is. Because we're basically giving it that power by saying, okay, I believe this is a good thing and I'm going to try it. And yes, it makes me feel good. And the more I do it, makes me feel better, or I'm achieving the result I want to achieve. So if there is an intellectual or scientific sort of view of it, it's, a touchstone is something that brings you back to yourself, and I would venture to say releases some endorphins along with it and centers you and makes you feel better, so you come back to it over and over again.
I think our minds are struggling to do what we wanted to do, and the mind has been with us ever since our birth, and it knows that we are liars. We lie to ourselves all the time. So the mind has to figure out when we're lying and when we're not. And that's a task, because we sometimes don't know whether we're lying to ourselves or telling the truth. And that's one of the things that meditation is all about, to be able to teach ourselves to learn when we are lying and when we're not. And so when the mind gives us pain or something that we don't like, then it is struggling because it thinks, and maybe we do actually want that pain at that time, but we don't know it. So what our job is to try to really get to know ourselves. If we really, really know ourselves, the mind will then come in line more with us, and there won't be as much contradiction. But the mind is most of the time more correct than we are in our needs, wants, and desires.
Really, what Robert is saying is really the same thing AA is saying. and that, you know, that the disease centers in the mind, and then the cunning, baffling, and powerful aspect of it trying to rationalize what we want, what it wants.
Don't we have more than one mind, though? There's brain, which is the totally physical thing with all the neurochemicals and stuff. But then there's mind and different branches of Vedanta talk about.
Modifications of mind.
Yeah. Well, but I mean more subtle. I mean, there's the gross mind, let me call it. And that's the one that if we don't pay attention to our mind, that's all we ever have is that one. But if we start to pay attention to our mind, we use our mind to pay attention to our mind, our thoughts, the mind is having in meditation, we start to see. It's like Robert was saying, getting to know yourself is, as he said, one of the purposes of meditation.
They are both Brazilians.
Sorry? Goro, what did you say?
Oh, yes. Yeah, the thing is, the mind means we absolutely may have to make the distinction between the brain and I think the higher self that we all have. So I think the higher self is the true compass in your life, whatever it is. It's above the body, it's above this spacesuit we are wearing. I think that is what helps you out no matter what it is. Like I think Bhagwan Das mentioned something about AA, and yeah, meditation and pursuing the spiritual path. I think it's even better than AA. I don't know.
Well, I kind of think AA brings you from the very gross to a finer point to, you know, be able to do these things.
Yeah.
But like Robert was saying, you know, it gets down to, you know, or like printed on all the coins and self, to my own self be true, you know, and you have to realize the cunning and baffling nature of it.
Of the mind.
That it centers in the mind.
Oh, mind can be your biggest enemy. Means the brain can be your biggest enemy, literally.
This is Tom. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh, but like I was saying, the mind has been with us since our birth, and it knows us many times much better than we know ourselves. So it believes what it see us do most of the time. What we do most of the time is what we really want. Well, if we don't agree with that sometimes, so we will say, no, I don't want that. I don't want that. But really, deep down inside, we do. And the mind recognizes that. And it recognizes when you say, I want this, it knows that you're lying.
Well, you know, if you can get a little bit of separation and realize you're not the mind, that helps in that department greatly.
I'd like to make a quick announcement. Since a number of people here have mentioned AA and 12-step programs, I just want to let you know we're going to be starting a meeting at the center. It's probably going to be a noon meeting, probably on Tuesday. It'll be similar to an AA or 12-step meeting, except we will meditate in the beginning. Our readings might be slightly different. And it's not just for alcohol, but any type of addiction, food, drugs, alcohol, gambling, whatever it is you think you're addicted to, you can use the 12 steps to help you with that. So I just put my phone number in the chat. If it's 404, oh no, I put my old phone number. That's the wrong phone number. Ignore that one. I am getting old and easily confused. Anyway, my phone number is 404-985-8282. I'll put that in there. Anybody interested in this meeting, give me a call.
I'm assuming Al-Anoners are welcome.
Yeah, basically anybody. Everybody's addicted to something. In fact, most of us are addicted to a whole bunch of things. I know I am.
Did you say what day? I'm sorry.
Probably Tuesday, but that's undecided at this point, but probably Tuesday at noon. We still have some more planning to do.
Okay, well, it is the hour. And I just think this has been a really remarkable discussion. We all, as we say, as we have said, I think all of us will agree, even if we haven't spoken up, that we have little victories and big victories, and that we take great joy in them. So may that be the case, that we take great joy, spontaneously or otherwise, in our victories. Next week's topic is You Touch Me. You touch me. So, is there anything else from anyone before we close? All right, dears. Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ji Ki Jai. Durga, Durga, Durga. May we be safe. May we be healthy. May we be cheerful. May we have peace of mind. And may we go forward secure in the knowledge that we are in the loving and protective embrace of the Divine Being as our Mother and Father. Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ji Ki Jai. May we all be well and in bright spirits. So the next opportunity for us to gather will be Tuesday, when we continue our study of the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. On Wednesday, we're on chapter 13 or 14 of the Gita. And then on Saturday, we are coming to the end of the book How to Know God, Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, as interpreted and commented on by Swami Prabhupada. When we finish that book, which will be soon, we will take up the book by Swami Ranganathananda, Divine Grace. Divine Grace will be our Saturday class. So any final thought or comment or concern from anyone? All right, dears. Until Tuesday, for those of you who decide to join us.
Jai Ma.
Yes.
I said Jai Ma.
Jai Ma, Jai Ma.
Thank you so much.
It's been a great joy to be with you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.